Hey, welcome everybody. Sorry about that. The mute button always gets you. Okay, so let's go back to the introduction. Oh, we're off to a rough start tonight, and I've only been drinking a little. Anyway, welcome back to All Things MSP Live. Tonight, we have Johnathan Schofield from Channel Falcon here to discuss earning the mental real estate of your clients. This is going to be an insightful conversation on the psychology of staying, really more than top of mind. It's an extra step above that. It's a way that you need to be engaged with your clients so that they are always thinking of you and keep you in mind when, they need stuff in the technology realm. But first, I've got a couple of other things. First of all, I want to apologize to those who are ready to brainstorm on peer groups last week. Something came up last Thursday. The good news is that means more people can be involved. So use the link I'm going to go ahead and drop in the comments. And let me go ahead and do that right now. Let me get to the comments here. There we go. Okay, now if you've already filled out this form, you don't need to fill it out again. So just to clarify on that. And I do want to say that, this is an exploratory thing. We haven't decided to do peer groups. We just really want to see if we should do them, and if we should do them, how we should do them. So we're trying to get everybody's opinion on that. And then, probably sometime over the weekend, I will send out a survey for us to pick a new time towards the end of next week to go ahead and have kind of that meeting and that brainstorming session. Also, if you're looking to implement or improve your sales process, check out the 2-episode masterclass I did with Tim Coach. The first episode dropped on Tuesday. The second one will drop tomorrow. And for those of you looking for a link on that one, let me go ahead and grab that. All right, there you go for that one. And if you like that one, we're actually doing another masterclass, this time with Tim Fitzpatrick from Rialto Marketing. And this is going to be on the things that you should do before you start marketing your MSP. And it's really interesting. We did several sessions, and it's broken up into little 15-minute chunks. So it's really easily digestible. And with this one, he actually created worksheets for you to use along with it. So it's great. The next thing that I want to bring up is that we do now have a discount code for IT Nation Connect 2024. This code will save you $250 off of your registration. And the code is all things MSP 250. And, while I'm being chat happy here, let me just go ahead and drop that as well so that everybody can see it. It's the discount code as well as the link to register. ConnectWise has been great. I will be there to record podcasts and do man on the street interviews, stuff like that. IT Nation Connect is one of my favorite shows of the year, not only because it's one of the largest shows, but it has all sizes of MSPs, so there's no shortage of people to network with. And of course, it's one of the biggest collection of vendors as well. So if you're looking for a new solution, if you need something from a vendor, it's one of the greatest places to check that out. So that also, I should probably plug myself here a little bit. If you're a vendor or MSP and you have an idea for an episode, of a podcast, a live stream, whatever, let me know. I'm going to go ahead. Like I said, I'm a little chat happy tonight. So let me drop this in the chat. This is a link to fill out a form to let me know what you want to talk about. And we will go ahead and get that scheduled. We're always looking for guests, MSPs preferred, vendors. We do limit just because we want to make more room for the MSPs and for the topics that we think are relevant to you guys. Now, I also want to mention for vendors, if you want to support all things MSP and the stuff we do here, and at the same time, create some fun and educational content for our audience, go ahead and ask me about sponsorships and our white label content services. So that is, some stuff that you can do, things that I wanted to bring up before we actually started tonight's live stream. Oh, I should also mention that tonight's live stream libation is a apple cider bourbon. It's here. It's basically an ounce of bourbon. I might have added a little bit more. Some apple cider, a little bit of ginger beer, a little bit of maple syrup, which I actually skipped because I'm using Weldon's Mill caramel apple bourbon in this because I wanted to, and it tastes really good. And then I opted not for the apple wedges for garnish. Now, lastly, before we start the program, I do need to thank the sponsors of tonight's program. Tonight's live stream is sponsored by MoveBot. Moving data between storage platforms used to be slow, complicated, and challenging. MoveBot changed that with a simple data migration tool that just works. Migrate files, emails, contacts, and calendars at lightning speeds to over 30 different platforms, including to and from on-prem file servers. Move terabytes per day without having to set up any infrastructure. Simply sign up and start moving data in minutes using their intuitive web interface. Get 250 gigabytes free by visiting atmsp.link/MoveBot. Our second sponsor tonight is CoreView. Are you struggling with standardizing Microsoft 365 tenant configurations and keeping them the way you configured them? With Simian Cloud, you can template your ideal tenant configurations and deploy them with a click. Auto-deploy configurations for new clients, receive alerts on tenant drifts, and save your team endless hours of manual configurations. So why work for your tenant when it can work for you? Find out more at atmsp.link/CoreView. All right. Now, I did promise a guest tonight after all of that. So, welcome to the stage, Johnathan Schofield from Channel Falcon, aka Captain America.
Thanks for having me, and all things MSP community. Great to see you all. I hope you've been well. Yep, the Fitz Captain America tonight, and I'll explain why in a minute, but great to be here, man.
Yeah, I was on your show, what was it, 2 weeks ago?
Yes.
And we got to talk about my favorite topic, using customer experience to analyze, manage, and improve your MSP business. But tonight, we're going to talk about, what you wanted to talk about, because this is my show, but you're the guest. Earning the mental real estate of your clients. Now, I think this is really interesting, by the way. But you know what? Before we start on that, we should probably have you introduce yourself for those people who don't know you and what you're doing over at Channel Falcon.
Sure. So for those of you who don't know me, Johnathan Schofield, I'm the founder of Channel Falcon and Dark Horse Business Systems. Those are two sides of the same coin. They all have to do with revenue, sales, business development, and Channel Falcon specifically is exclusively for managed IT service providers. Cyber matchmaking, it's a phrase that I've kind of coined for what I do. We find customers who need you, and we introduce you to each other. It's very different than any other quote unquote lead gen service out there in the industry. It's still in alpha. We're figuring some stuff out, but we're having a lot of fun. Before that, though, I sometimes describe myself as a recovering vendor because I've worked for several in the channel. I've had the privilege to collaborate with some of the brightest minds in the industry over the last couple of years. And along the way, meet folks like you and really hear from you the big challenges you have around sales, marketing, business development, growing your MSP, running it well. So that's a little bit about me. What else? Man, your drink is way more fall than mine. Mine's just straight Basil Hayden. But that sounded awesome, man.
Well, at least I didn't opt for a pumpkin spice something,
I wouldn't have judged. But it's funny you mentioned apple garnishes because over the weekend I took my daughter's apple picking. So I literally have more apples than I know what to do with in my house right now.
Fun.
Yes. So you could have had a garnish if you were over right now, Eric.
Yeah. So we, Amy and I actually went, this was 2 weekends ago now. We did a little side trip. We actually purchased this itinerary. It's a surprise itinerary for a local trip that you do, like a little road trip.
Cool.
And one of the stops on that was an apple orchard. We did not go apple picking, but we did have an apple cider slushy and bring home some apple cider.
Love it. Love it. It's the time of year, man. I mean,
Yep.
we only have 3 days left of summer technically before the first day of fall. Was it? Did I do my math right? 3 or 4? It's right around the corner. Literally around the corner. Go pick some apples, man.
Sometimes we don't math. We don't math here.
No math here.
So tell me what is this idea of earning, or first of all, I guess earning we'll talk about later. What is the idea of the mental real estate of your client? Tell me what the definition of that is first before we move on.
Sure. So what I mean by mental real estate, like Eric, if I were to ask you the name of your spouse, that is not a thing that you would have to spend a lot of time pondering. I'm going to go out on a limb here, Eric, and assume that your spouse occupies a significant portion of your available mental real estate, right? Your address, your social security number, these are things that are just inherently occupying microns and more than microns of your mental real estate. The relationships you have, the professional relationships you have, the customers, clients that you work with, some of them occupy different slices and quantities of the available pie chart of mental real estate. But that's what I mean by mental real estate. Like when your head pops off the pillow in the morning, the human brain is amazing in its capacity to build associations, right? And draw associations, right? And the moment your head pops off the pillow, the synapses are all firing and things are coming at you. And your responses to those inputs are often determined by what's occupying your mental real estate today. AKA, I just had a ransomware incident. Who do I call? There's a drop-down menu of associated concepts in my brain, right? And there's a few things that go in. When I was back in the cloud services industry, right? Because that's kind of where I got my start in the channel, was in cloud services. I would ask this question. It's like if I took 10 MSPs and I lined them up against a wall and I said, what's the first thing that comes to your mind when I say the word cloud? Okay. Now those 10 MSPs are all going to have maybe slightly nuanced answers, but I bet you if they were to write down the top 5 or 10 associated concepts with that term, there's going to be some crossover. You better believe some of them are going to say Microsoft. Some of them might say VMware. Some of them might say, whatever, insert cloud solution that everybody uses, right? But that's what I mean by mental real estate. The business owner's job, and certainly the sales professional's job, the business developer's job, but definitely the business owners, because in my experience, a lot of MSPs are still, founder-led growth, and you guys are kind of responsible for your own, progress. You should be thinking about mental real estate. That's what I mean by that. That's maybe a longer answer than you were looking for, but that's mental real estate.
No, I think that was really good. And it's more than just top of mind, right? Because top of mind is a very just generic thing. And this gets a little more specific. I love how you describe it with that drop-down menu.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a mental drop-down menu. If you have a ransomware incident, to use your example, what is going to be in that list when I pull down that mental drop-down?
And it could be as simple as so you put yourself in the mind of the customer, right? And you think that office administrator or that CEO or president or IT director or whatever, they come across, maybe it's not as significant as ransomware, but it's just a recurring issue that comes up in their business. And every time it comes up, there's discomfort associated with it or inconvenience associated with it. And they immediately think this kind of sucks. And then there's a drop-down menu of associated concepts of well, if we didn't have to use insert this, this ERP system, or if we didn't have to use this fulfillment or procurement software, if we didn't have to be tied to VDI or whatever it might be, my life would be so much easier, blah, 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 blah. And then the imagination goes a little further. It's well, what if we were to sit down and actually think about doing this differently or better? And then there's probably names that come into mind. Yep. Joe in IT. I need to go talk to Joe. He might have some ideas about how to fix this. If they have a Joe, right? Maybe they don't. If they're working with you I better hope that you are in their drop-down menu of associated concepts. So there's two sides of this, and I love how you titled today's discussion. There's earning it, which is really tough.
Yep.
And earning is where your new customers come from. You have to earn it before you get a new customer. There's this misnomer like you build it and they will come. False. You have to earn the customer's mind share before they're ever going to think about doing any business with you. But then that's just half the battle. It's retaining it, maintaining it, growing and nurturing it after you've gotten it. So, man, there's so many different soapboxes and rabbit trails we could go down here. But carry on.
You mentioned something that I want to double click into because I think this is relevant. And that is, it's not just one person at a client that you need to earn this real estate from.
Mm-hmm.
There are multiple personas within the company that you probably have to earn and keep
That's right.
the mental real estate of. So what are some of the things that you think when you think of that dynamic of having to earn and keep the mental real estate of multiple types of people within an organization for different reasons?
So I have a very real world example that I can share with you, and it hasn't resulted in, it's still in progress right now. So check in with me, maybe in 3 to 6 months, and I'll let you know how successful we've been. But I mentioned earlier one of the things that we do at Channel Falcon I call cyber matchmaking. Well, earlier this year, we had a conversation with a nonprofit on the East Coast that was, and I'm not going to share too much details here on this live stream, but let's just put it this way. Their current provider, they're not happy with, they're looking to change, and there's a million different reasons why. Or our point of contact has been the IT director. So that we're talking like hundreds of users, right? So it's definitely a co-managed relationship that they're looking for. But our point of contact, IT director. Now, the way that conversation initially came about is one of my BDRs called them, had a very lighthearted conversation with this IT director, pitched what we do as a complimentary discovery process for nonprofits and others. And this IT director said, yes, we have a lot of needs. We need some help. He sits down with me for a 30-minute discovery call a week after that. And are we talking about IT? Yes. But we're also talking about his music interests, his family, how he used to work at an MSP himself years ago, and all this cool stuff about just his background in tech and personality. And even though we only allocated 30 minutes, you better believe we spent the better part of an hour. On the other side of that call, I had a discovery packet of like 70 different really critical things that the MSP we were going to introduce them to needed to know about. So that was really great. Fast forward a week later, we introduced them to one of my partners. That's the matchmaking part that we do. And that was the IT director, myself, and the MSP. We get on a call, and I literally smoosh them on a Zoom call together and say, hey, you guys should talk. And so that's what they did. All signs, Eric, all signs pointed to this is going to be a slam dunk. This was perfect. Like they were coming up on their fiscal end of year. They're just getting budget approval. The IT director had this wish list of things he knew he needed. And also they were getting some compliance pushback from the industry on leadership. So leadership was feeling pressure. They need to make some changes. All signs pointed to this being the thing that needs to happen. Well, guess what happens shortly after that? Summer comes around the corner, and then crickets. Everyone gets busy. Things are going on. Proposals were exchanged, and everything looked good. Well, ever since then, me and my partner have been working to reinitiate the conversation, to bring it back to life. And man, we've called and we've sent emails, and man, just nothing. Well, finally, one of the things that I did recently is I sent a direct message on LinkedIn, a thing that I rarely do, by the way, because there's so many reasons not to cold DM people. But I shot my shot, and this guy comes back to me. He was like, actually, yeah, let's circle the wagons. I feel like I should share with you what's going on. He gets on a call with me, and he's like, these are the reasons that this project is, switching providers is kind of stalled out. They're very real reasons, Eric, what he shared with me. But with each objection he was giving me, like, these are the reasons that we can't change. All I heard was, you just told me you absolutely should make some changes. And what I'm really sensing is you're not getting buy-in from executive leadership. If you had your way, you would release the shackles and do all things differently. So what did I do? I'm like, my spidey senses, or maybe I should say my captain senses, because I'm not dressed as Spider-Man today. My captain senses were firing. It was like, oh man, there's other players that we have not earned mental real estate with. So I did some digging with him on that call. And I was like, hey, so who's your biggest ally in these initiatives? Like, who on the executive leadership team is like advocating for you? And he comes back and he says, the CFO. I said, man, what you shared with me today is that there's more than just IT and security that's impacting the organization. There's a lot of stuff that's probably keeping the leadership team up at night. I said, what's your appetite for introducing me to the CFO? Because I come in as an agnostic third party. I can't sell them anything, even if I wanted to. But I can be a sounding board and kind of a guide, if you will. So listen, hear them out. So I'll let you know how it goes. But in this case, it was a series of calls and conversations with the IT director, and I'm currently waiting on a mutual introduction to the CFO. And that'll be the next project, is to earn mental real estate with that, because you're absolutely right, Eric. It's rare, especially in companies larger than 50 and 100 employees, which this one absolutely was. It's rarely one person that is part of the decision-making process. For something as intimate and sticky as IT and security and compliance, like, no one's just shopping willy-nilly off of Google and making a decision, knee jerk. Not in the larger companies anyways. So that's an example. There's but that's that. I didn't even tell you the story of like how we initially broke in, but I want to give you a chance to respond, and I'm going to take a drink.
Well, so I think one of the things that, we're all taught when we go through sales training, right, is we need to make sure that we're talking to the right person when we're trying to sell whatever we're trying to sell to them, whether it be managed services or, as a vendor, a software solution. How do you earn that mental real estate of a person that you don't even have contact with?
I'm so glad you asked, because that allows me to tell the Captain America story, why I'm dressed like this today. All right. If you're listening and you're watching this and you take nothing else away from what I'm sharing with you today, write this down. Authentic, physical, human connection. Okay. The reason I make an idiot of myself and dress up, some people are like, Johnathan, why do you do that? I've literally had people say, that's unprofessional. You shouldn't do that stuff. You know where it came from? When I worked for a vendor in the cloud services space for MSPs, I would go to IT Nation. I would go to DattoCon. I would go to the big events and the small events. And I was the one responsible for, helping us determine which shows we would go to and what we would budget for. And so kind of my ass was on the line if we chose to go somewhere and it wasn't worth our time and effort. And it didn't take me more than like 2 shows of going and standing in a vendor hall and being like, we're not talking to nearly enough prospects. We're not talking to nearly enough leads. And like, man, if we're going to spend $30K just to have, a roll-up banner on a 6-foot table here, and bring, pay for 3 dudes to come out here and stand with their hands in their pockets, we're going to get creative. And that's what led me to learning that if you step outside of your comfort zone to facilitate authentic, physical, human connection, you can earn a micron of mental real estate. So the direct answer to your question is, you have to reach out. You have to initiate a conversation somehow. And the way you do this is wherever thy prospect is, there thou shalt also be. So what that means is their voicemail, their email inbox, their LinkedIn inbox. That means the events they go to, the networking groups they participate in, their physical office, if you can. Like, you need to be obsessive in your pursuit. Now, what I hope you didn't hear was spam, because that's not what I said. You need to be present in a way that facilitates authentic, physical, human connection. So that filters everything we choose to do at Channel Falcon, and what I encourage all my partners to do. Like, if you're going to do an email campaign, I'm not saying don't do emails. I might say don't do any emails, but if you're going to do emails, cold emails, like to earn that mental real estate, you need to really have a laser focus on the stuff that's keeping your prospect up at night. And your messaging needs to be so impactful and powerful. And small things, put the face of the person sending the email in the signature, like your actual face. Put images or videos in there, like where they can see your face, hear your voice. Then you want like authentic physical human connection. It's hard to do that with a Google ad. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
The physical piece. So those are ways for cold outreach. Get creative, man. I would much rather shake somebody's hand and have them smell my bad breath than opt to do the easy thing and send them an email.
I'm not distracted. I was listening. I was trying to find the picture of you and I at IT Nation at ChannelCon.
Hey, yeah, we did take one
to show exactly how two ridiculous people should dress up at.
Oh, it's on my LinkedIn, and I also have it on my phone somewhere. It's the one where we're sparring, right?
Yes.
We're straight up sparring. I might have to scroll.
I was going to try and
the archives.
Bring it up to show the audience.
While he's pulling it up, though, so like the reason the costume, right? Man, there's so many brilliant products in the channel and so many brilliant vendors who try to earn the real estate of MSPs. What they want you, Mr. MSP, Miss MSP, to use their products, their services. And we're talking about some of the brightest minds in the industry who have architected incredible solutions for you folks to take advantage of. And you smush them all in a room. And why the heck would they come talk to you? Well, you better hope that your product's good, your service is good, and it should be. But you can sometimes have the best solution and still no one comes to your booth and still nobody comes and talks to you. It's just starts a conversation. It's like, hey, why are you dressed as Captain America? I'll be standing in line for coffee, and they're like, they'll look at the star on my chest. This hasn't happened yet. I'm actually taking this outfit for the first time to ScaleCon in Vegas the first week of October. So you all get the sneak peek. But I can already anticipate some people are going to look at the star on my chest and like, oh, that's got more Winter Soldier vibes than the OG Captain America. To which they'd be that would be accurate. So there's going to be that nerd standing in line who looks at my chest. He's going to make that comment. And I was like, yep, you're right. And I was like, and that's a guy that might not have talked to me otherwise. And there we're going to be standing, getting coffee. And now he's like, so what? All right, I have to ask, what's it all about? So glad you did. You struggling to get customers? Because that's where I help, you know? And it might seem silly and stupid, but a moment of authentic humanity is going to earn you oceans of mental real estate by comparison to a desperate voicemail or an email nobody asked for or a digital ad that looks like every one of your supplier's ads. Right. Can we talk about that for a second? Can we talk about how digital ads fail to earn mental real estate? I'm not saying they can't, but that's a big problem.
But it's harder when they all look the same. And they don't offer anything relevant or memorable.
So I see this. Listen, a lot of you guys are Microsoft partners. A lot of you folks are Microsoft partners. And maybe maybe you use VMware or you used to, maybe Veeam or Acronis or Axient or insert one of the bigger backup companies or cloud companies, right? And they provide a lot of the stuff that you do, right? Like you use their services. Pay attention to their social media sometime, right? And tell me how easy it is without looking at the brand to differentiate one cloud backup vendor from another, right? In terms of the messaging they have and the images they display, right? And now look at your own stuff. If your stuff looks like Microsoft's marketing material, if your stuff looks like all the billion-dollar juggernauts in the space, no one's going to pay attention. You're competing for a saturated market where you're going against budgets you'll never make a dent in, right? So if you're going to do digital ads, Put your face, business owner. You might not feel like you like the spotlight, but your face is one of your most powerful assets to grow your business. I hate to tell you this. You're more beautiful than you realize. Use that asset. Get your face out there. People know you more than they know about the tech you do.
Well, and there is there is just something about the psychology of faces. You know, if you do anything in terms of YouTube training, one of the first things they tell you with your thumbnails is they should almost always include a face.
Yes.
Doesn't even have to be yours, but it has to be a face.
Yes. Yes. And you can see this modeled. You can go to YouTube and see the most popular content creators, and you go to their video library and you scroll through all the thumbnails. You'll see Mr. Beast with this big goofy grin ear to ear. And you're like, and sometimes it's off-putting how much of his face is there. But you better believe when you see him scrolling, you're like, I know who that is. Oh, that's him. And so now you're gonna read his little video title, and you're gonna be like, oh, that maybe I'll click on that. Whereas if it was just generic, you're gonna just scroll on by.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so
that's a whole other soapbox.
Update on trying to find the picture. I can't for whatever reason. My Google foo is just not up to par tonight. Uncle Marv is actually petitioning for us not to show it. I will say that if you missed both of us at ChannelCon, Johnathan was dressed up as a pirate. I don't know if it was specifically the Dread Pirate Roberts, but it was very similar. Okay.
It was.
And I may or may not have been in a very green, very sparkly green suit.
That's right. Yeah, and you had what was it, a lightsaber, or you had some type of weapon with you?
Well, I borrowed somebody's lightsaber so that we could duel.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. Yeah, I was dressed as the Dread Pirate Roberts, and those of you who know Princess Bride will appreciate this. You can actually see behind me the two goblets there, right? So at our booth, we had this, and then we had I won't pull him fully into frame, but we'll just call him Vicini here, right? And he was draped over that, right? And so people would ask me, why are you dressed as the Dread Pirate Roberts from Princess Bride? Or they would guess it. A lot of people thought I was Zorro, and I'd have to explain myself. But guess what? I got to talk to them, and then we had a conversation, which we wouldn't have had otherwise. I would send them to the booth, and they had to scan a QR code to guess which goblet had the iocane powder in.
Nice.
And that, I'm being cocky now, but I don't think there was anybody else's booth there that had quite that kind of flair as ours.
Right.
Years ago, I dressed up as Waldo. There's actually IT Nation Secure. We gave out floppy disks in all the gift bags when you signed in, and it said, "Where's Waldo? He'll be hanging out in this hotel. So find him, hand him this for a chance to win an Oculus 2." And I'm 6'2", Eric. It was the easiest game of Waldo anybody's ever played. Walking around the convention center, I literally got flocked by prospects, whereas a lot of other vendors in the space were desperate to talk to anyone. They came to me.
Yeah.
Now, Mr. MSP, Miss MSP, does that mean you need to put on a Captain America suit and make a fool of yourself? Maybe, not necessarily. There was a specific strategy behind what I've done, right? And there's a specific strategy behind Captain America, by the way. When I go to ScaleCon in 2 weeks, the whole message is going to be Captain America wants you to join the Channel Falcon Alpha. I almost did Uncle Sam, but we're doing some collaborations with 2 other vendors, and we went with a captain's theme, and I like this better. So Captain America wants you to join the Channel Falcon Alpha. So everything I do, though it might seem like slapstick and just pulled out of my butt, there's a lot of thought that's gone into it. So anyway, get creative. Don't be afraid to throw yourself out there, and you'll earn more real estate than you realize.
Yeah, and it's really about doing something different. I mean, you know, we've all seen, you know, the $2 bills dropped on the floor, you know, all the different things that people have done to be different. And you know what? They work. The problem is you can't just duplicate it, because it only works for so long until everybody goes, oh, well, I know what that is. You know.
Well, that's why. So let's just be honest. Is this a little gimmicky? Absolutely, it's a little gimmicky. This is meant, the initial micron of mental real estate through authentic physical human connection. If I can be standing in line for coffee and elicit an emotional reaction out of you because I'm making a fool of myself, and that leads to a conversation, that's just the beginning.
Yep.
So, and actually I've been looking for an excuse to take this off because my head is sweating like crazy. I'm not dressed as Captain America on every call that I do, right? Eventually I'm going to put my Dark Horse hat on. Huh?
Just mine.
Yeah. Eventually, it's going to be me. And now we have to be real, right? We have to be real. And this is where you as an MSP, there's a reason, Eric, I made the assumption that you don't need to think hard about the name of your spouse, right? A good relationship between a customer and their IT provider, that customer is not going to have to think very long and hard about who their IT provider is. So let that be a litmus test for you. Could your customers, if pressed, within 5 seconds or less, tell somebody who you are? Would they know somebody's handling their IT? Do they know it's you? Could they say your name? Could they say your company name like that? Surely some of them could. Could all of them? And I think if you follow that litmus test, you'll know where you need to spend a little more intentional account management effort. And this ties into what you and I talked about on my live stream a couple weeks ago, customer experience. You can't be facilitating good experiences for your customers if they don't even know who you are.
Right.
That's an oversimplification of what we talked about, but I think it's really relevant here.
Well, one of the things that gets talked about a lot in our industry is the fact that if you're doing a good job as an MSP, they rarely see you. They don't know anything about you because you're doing such a good job that they never have to call you. And that is the worst situation to be in my opinion, because a bad experience is memorable. Now, it's going to be memorable for all the wrong reasons, and they're probably going to, just discount you, and you're not going to be the person they call the next time they have a problem. But if you create a great experience, that is memorable.
That's
and
right.
That is going to earn you the mental real estate. And if you continue to create a great experience, you're going to keep that mental real estate.
The relationship you want to strive for with your customers is the one such that they can't imagine a world without you part of it, right? You want to become so indispensable and irreplaceable to your customers that the prospect of changing is like out in another universe. It's hard for them to wrap their heads around. If you don't feel like you're in that spot with your customers, then you could be at risk with some of them. So how do you facilitate that? Now, I'm a sales guy. I'm a business development guy specifically. Love working in channel, working with channel partners and those types of things. Delivering experiences to customers. Eric, you're going to have a lot more thoughts on that side of the coin. I have a lot of opinions as well, but that's why I said dressing up like an idiot and earning that first conversation, that's just the tip of the iceberg. But it's funny though. I hear that from MSPs more often than not. It's like that tip of the iceberg is where they feel like they have the most to learn. And I don't have leads. I don't know where my next customer is going to come from. I've tried everything and nothing seems to work. I've hired 5 sales guys in the last 2 years and nothing seems to stick, et cetera, et cetera. The tip of the iceberg seems to be where they feel like they're failing. I would venture a guess it's not the only place where you're struggling, but it gets a lot of attention.
Yeah, and customer experience can be applied not only to the operations side once you have a client, but also it's very important in the onboarding process. I focus a lot on the onboarding process in terms of customer experience, because starting that relationship post sales cycle is where you're going to earn the most real estate when we're talking about mental real estate. It also applies though to the awareness and the discovery and all of the phases in your marketing and sales process as well. Now, you talked about litmus tests before, and my favorite litmus test for whether or not I have a good relationship with an MSP client is that they're calling me every time they have a question about tech. every time somebody tries to pitch them on new tech, I am their first phone call. If the only phone calls or emails you're getting are when they have problems, you have an experience problem.
Yeah. You know, because my team does a lot of cold outreach to folks that may or may not have need of IT services, we'll run into that where the end customer will say, yeah, XYZ. So glad you're here, Degley, gentleman and a scholar.
It's my
Yeah.
second time seeing Degley today, actually.
Oh, fantastic. You can't see Degley too many times in a day.
No, you
can't. You will hear that from prospects where it's like, yeah, we don't even talk, we're not even going to talk to you about that. If you want to talk about IT and how we handle it, you need to talk to our MSP. And they'll even sometimes give us their contact information, be like, yeah, if you want to call our IT provider and talk about that with them, it's literally like the competitor being introduced to the incumbent. To me, that's usually a key indicator that one of two things: either they're just really skilled at trying to get us off the phone, which that could be, or they have such high confidence. They've gotten to that place where they can't fathom a world without their current provider, right? They're so connected and integrated that it's just like bonkers proposition. It's like, oh, why would I chop off my left arm to put your little robot thing on my shoulder? That doesn't make any sense. Anyways, so yeah.
Well, I think it goes back to the fact that IT is now a non-negotiable for any type of business of any size, right? Now, the one man, consultant may not need you all the time, but they're going to have IT problems that they need solved. It's even more important as the business gets larger to have that person who is trusted. And because there's so much around security and the data protection and privacy, that you have to have, and I hate to use a coined word, but trusted advisor. The MSP must have that level of trust with their client, or it's just never going to be what it really needs to be.
So it's funny, like, I know that term of trusted advisor, we feel like we hear it all the time, and you feel a certain kind of way about it, and maybe it loses some of its meaning because it's thrown around so loosely. But the idea of trust is so much the part of this conversation. You all have received a cold call before, right? And why do you find it often uncomfortable when it's cold outreach? You don't know this person. You don't trust this person. Whereas if it was your spouse, I'm not going to presume your relationship with anybody watching, but like somebody that you are close to, right? You don't think twice about it. Unless you're an introvert, then you might think twice about taking that call. Well, which I am, by the way. So do with that what you will. But my point is, earning mental real estate, that first wall you have to penetrate is, my guard is up, my shield is up. I don't want to talk to you. I don't know you. And you want to talk to me about IT of all things, something that has such an intimate impact on the goings on of my day-to-day in my enterprise, my venture. Like that's like asking someone, who just knocked on your door to come look at your bedroom closet. You're like, not comfortable sharing that with you yet. I didn't know you before 30 seconds before you knocked on my door. So whatever you can do to break through that initial wall, but then beyond that, like you said, Eric, going through onboarding, going through the life cycles of their own business growth, not just yours as an MSP, but like, do you really have your finger on the pulse of the cycles of business your customers are dealing with and going through? And as you help them navigate those things, you better believe they're going to invite you to look at their bedroom closet or whatever.
The network closet. Let's change it to network closet.
The network closet, different closet, important closet.
But it's interesting because now we've almost come full circle, because we talked about using the gimmicks, and the gimmicks can absolutely drop people's shields, to use your enterprise reference. It's just one of those things that creates that moment of vulnerability where they feel like they can say something.
That's right.
And they're not talking about something serious. They're not approaching you about something, where they know that they're going to get sucked into a pitch, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when I'm walking down, the aisle of a trade show floor and I'm wearing a horse, people talk to me.
And listen, I know this is low hanging fruit for me to go grab my shield and sling it on my back and be here for this. And then to do these at shows, maybe you're an MSP who's never done a show like that before. Maybe you wouldn't know where to begin. That's okay. First of all, there's folks like me that can help you navigate those decisions. But everything you do related to sales, business development, marketing, building your own personal channel for your business, that's the screen through which you need to be filtering every decision you make. Oh, I'm going to hire a cold caller to sit and make calls for my business. What are they doing on the calls that's going to facilitate authentic, physical, human connection? Oh, I'm going to hire a marketing coordinator to build email campaigns for my business. Okay. How in the sequences, the cadences, and in the structure of what we're putting together are we facilitating authentic, physical, human connection? We're going to do a digital ad campaign, and I submit to you there is a right way to do it. How are we going to facilitate authentic, physical, human connection? Everything you do needs to be filtered through that screen. And if you don't know how it facilitates that, then you can pretty well take it to the bank that you are wasting your time and investment on that particular strategy, right?
Yep.
And just to bring it back to trade shows, if I had a nickel for every vendor I've seen spend premium dollars on booth space to have an entry-level employee put their hands in their pockets and sit behind a table during the most congested times where there's prospects in abundance, I would have way more nickels than I wished I'd had. And that's just literally stand up, take your hands out of your pockets and go introduce yourself to somebody,
Yeah.
The little things. So
my one biggest recommendation to a vendor who has a trade show booth is do not stand in your booth.
I don't even let chairs at my booth. You pretty much anytime you get a booth, they give you 2 complimentary chairs. The first thing I tell the floor staff is like, you can take those away. We're not going to need them. If you want to sit, go to the lobby, answer emails over there. But when you're at the booth, you're here to work.
And table either to the side or to the back.
Mm-hmm.
One of the two. Nothing dividing you from the people that you want to talk to. So, Johnathan, we're coming up on the top of the hour. And, of course, we want to end our show before Uncle Marv's show starts. And he was so nice to be here tonight and comment. So we do appreciate him as well. Actually, if you are, not done with watching MSP content tonight, please go ahead and check out Uncle Marv's IT Business Podcast. He is talking tonight about, coincidentally, conferences, big
Very
versus
relevant.
small. So definitely something that you should check out tonight if you have the time. Luckily, I have the time, and this is definitely a topic that I want to weigh in on. So, Johnathan, is there anything else that you want to share tonight about earning and keeping the mental real estate of your clients?
Yeah, I'll put it in as succinctly as I can. A lot of IT service providers I talk to struggle in this area. They scratch their heads. How do I go earn mental real estate just to have an initial conversation with the prospect? It's no different than training for a marathon or doing like 100 push-up challenge or trying to lose weight through diet. People all say they want to look better, feel better, have the energy they need to live their lives and whatnot. Medical conditions aside, the large majority of people who have that desire to take control of their body, their actions and the choices they make are what really tell you what's their priority. When it comes to earning mental real estate, there is no easy path to do it. It's going to require a flesh and blood human being to make some choices and discipline themselves to consistently execute on those choices faithfully over time to earn mental real estate. If that's not you in your business, you need to find somebody in your business that is you. But I would submit 9 times out of 10, if you're on this call today, it probably is you. It probably is you. And until you have the resources to really facilitate a culture of that kind of earning of mental real estate, you're going to have to take ownership of it. If you don't know where to begin, there's a lot of folks in the channel that can help you out. I humbly submit that I could help in some ways. So don't be shy.
Awesome. Thank you very much, sir. And yeah, if you're interested in finding out more, check out Johnathan's stuff on LinkedIn. He produces a lot of great content. He likes to dress up as some really cool stuff. And, you know, it works. I mean, I can't say it any plainer than that. It absolutely works. And Degley is going to finish us out, I think, with a comment tonight. He's saying, go in with the legitimate will and intent to listen, to understand their pain points and needs. Absolutely. That's the authentic part that Johnathan was talking about earlier. And it really does make a difference to be, you know, authentic like that. So Degley, thank you for that closing comment tonight. And Johnathan, thank you for having me on your fireside chat. Really did appreciate that. If you want to find out more about using a customer experience framework for your business, check out the fireside chat that I did with Johnathan, or reach out to me directly. We are both available on LinkedIn pretty much all the time. So thanks again for joining us tonight. Johnathan, thank you.
My pleasure. Take care, everybody. Bye.
Have a great evening.